Hey there everyone, today I have another live review for you guys, this time for Iceage at the Electrowerkz, supported by Dogfeet and Puce Mary. To begin with, I must say there could not have been a more suitable setting and venue for the dirt-covered and kind of noisy sound of the band Iceage. It was my first time visiting the Electrowerkz for a gig, and it's pretty much about as punk as you can get. It's dark, it's dingy, and pretty much falling to pieces. To kick open the night was Dogfeet. They kind of reminded me of 9 Inch Nails colliding with the earlier works of Swans at like 100 miles per hour. It was very industrial, very repetitive, kind of guitars swallowed in effects kind of effects. There were very tribal, hard-hitting drum beats that were going on all the time. The stage show was nothing too spectacular. They kind of had one strobe light sitting behind them, but other than venue lighting, they pretty much all stood still. The front man really had quite a bit of personality, in fairness, but other than that, there wasn't really much to look at. He had a lot of snarl to his voice and he kind of moved around in a pretty cool way, but other than that, not much. Also, the guitarist and bass player pretty much stood perfectly still, and the guitarist was actually more or less just out of sight as well, behind a huge stack of speakers, which is kind of crappy. I will say the bass player also kind of looked a bit awkward on stage, just not really knowing what to do, looking down at his bass and just strumming the notes out, and it wasn't all that entertaining, in fairness. Despite they played a very rehearsed set, you could very much tell they pretty much didn't have any breaks through the songs. Everything was connected through, samples or a voice talking or, something they'd do to connect the songs. And again, as a result, they played pretty tight as a unit, and it was pretty sonically impressive as well. At least until the bassist had to perform a restringing on stage. Gotta be honest, I felt kind of bad for them, as this isn't really their fault, but it did lead to a kind of shoddy performance. Next up was Puce Mary. She was merely a single woman with a plethora of electronic devices in front of her, laid out sort of across the table. From the word go, it was pretty clear she was a maker of noise. I have never seen a noise act before, so it certainly was an interesting, kind of a new experience for myself. And by the looks of a lot of people's faces, also a lot of people in there as well. It was very loud and kind of entrancing. There were some very interesting sounds coming from the speakers, ranging from sort of reverb-soaked static and also loads of kind of bone-chilling screeches, and even at one point an ear-piercing scream from some form of life, whatever it may be. It didn't necessarily sound entirely human. Having said that, I personally kind of prefer the harsher noises when it comes to this form of music, and although there were definitely some noticeable climaxes and whatnot within the sound, which I found really interesting, I felt like the noises were very similar throughout most of the set. And finally, to end the night, was Iceage, the entire reason I was here. They opened with the first track from their latest, You're Nothing, which was Ecstasy. For the first two tracks, the frontman had a guitar which he was playing as well as singing, and I really enjoyed watching him perform, sort of throw his arms around the guitar about in a very sort of sloppy, uncoordinated, apathetic kind of way. He had a very sort of unapologetic, trashy and harsh energy about him that I will say kind of translated very well. After he put the guitar down, things only sort of picked up. Having said that, despite the great mix of New Brigade and You're Nothing, and also the decent performance from the frontman, I couldn't help but feel the performance was a little bit lackluster. The other two members, the other guitarist and also the bass player, along with the drummer, were just kind of standing there not really doing a great deal. They kind of stared down at their instruments, played them, and that was pretty much it. I understand the guitarist had a lot of stuff to do in terms of effects, like reverb, he had loads of effect pedals, ranging from wah-wah pedals to loops and stuff. It was really kind of an interesting setup. But once again, I just couldn't help but feel like both of them couldn't really give two shits that they were playing to a crowd. Sonically, the noisiness and harshness of their sound really came across quite well, thanks to, like I said, silly amounts of effects, including so much reverb you could actually hear it every time the drummer clicked his sticks to count into a song. Ultimately, it was an alright night. I felt like the bands were kind of a little bit disappointing, if I'm honest, but I had a fun time anyway. The crowd went off for Iceage, so that's a plus. Dogfeet, I feel really bad for them, but I have to give them a low score because, to be perfectly honest, it wasn't a great performance. It was kind of a bit bad. Not necessarily their fault, but regardless, 3.5 to a 4 out of 10. Iceage, I did enjoy, I must admit, but I felt like they could be so much better. Tons of potential there, keep an eye out on them. 5 out of 10. Also check out the records because they're both great regardless. An unlikely contender for the best performance of the night, but Puce Mary I felt kind of, her noisiness really just engulfed me and I lapped it up. I absolutely loved her 30-minute set. It was roughly 6 out of 10 for her. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you was at the show or you've seen these on this tour, make sure to let me know what you thought or what you think of these bands in general. And I'll catch you guys and gals later.